I just wanted to explain a bit about what a holistic context is so that people can understand how it makes such a difference in our decision making. A holistic context is a statement that we write down that we use to then guide all of our decisions. And when we first start our context, what we do is we write down what quality of life we want. So this could be for a family, for a business, or for a whole country, or for the whole world. You just need to involve the decision makers in developing the context. So I'm just going to talk about it from like my sort of a family perspective today, but it is the same principle all the way up. And so what you start with is a statement about what quality of life you want. What do you want from life? And you would describe, so most people will describe that they want to live in peace and harmony. They want physical and financial security for their family, for their business, for the country. They want physical and financial security. They want access to good education, nutritious food, clean water. They want to be free to pursue their own hobbies and sports and cultural or religious or any pursuits that you want. And when you're developing your context, you don't have any prejudice or say what you don't want. You only say what you want for your life. This is what I want. So we describe our values and what we want, our quality of life. And then we do a little bit about, and we write down what behaviors will bring about that quality of life. Because if we go around basically being assholes or dishonest and lying and whatever, we're not going to have the quality of life that we want, because we won't have the support of our friends or family. We won't have, if in the case of a business, we won't have the support of our customers, etc. So we describe the behaviors that will bring about the quality of life that we desire. And then what we do is we learn that none of us can have any quality of life. We cannot have physical or financial security without our environment being healthy, because our entire world, our physical and financial stability depends entirely on the health of Earth's ecosystem, because everything we eat or use comes from the land or water and eventually goes back to the land or water. And we literally cannot survive without green plants growing on regenerating soils, all using the sun's energy to do that. So no civilization can exist without healthy soils, basically. So we've got our quality of life, we've got the behaviors that will bring about that quality of life, and then we acknowledge that we cannot have any quality of life without Earth's ecosystems being healthy or your surrounding land being healthy. So we then tie all of that to a description of what our environment must look like for hundreds of generations to come, because obviously we want our descendants to have that quality of life that we've described. So we write down in our context what our land must look like, and you can do it if you live in an urban area. Remember, everything you use or consume comes from the land, so you're affecting the environment. So you must acknowledge that we must have biodiverse, healthy land ecosystems with healthy soils, flowing rivers, etc., clean water, healthy mineral cycles, water cycles, energy flow. And if you're doing a context for a farm, you can describe your actual land and your neighbor's land. And if you're doing it for a country, you describe that the whole country's ecosystems must be functioning properly in order for the citizens to have physical and financial stability. So we write down, most people will write down, we want to see birds and animals and plants and trees and high biodiversity and healthy flowing rivers and etc. So that's our context that we've written down. And then what we do is we use that context like a magnetic north. And every time we make a decision, we say, is this decision going to lead me towards this life that I've described in my context? Because that's now what you're going to do with your management. So instead of reacting or adapting to your needs, desires, or problems and just making the decision without any further thought and meeting short-term objectives, what you do now with a holistic context is you say, if I make this decision, will it be leading me towards this life that I've described? And if it won't, and you test it, then you have to look for a better decision. So basically this context it's not something you can ever achieve, it's something you live within and strive towards always. So all your goals get aligned with that context, and you're just always asking the question, is my decision leading me there? So you're basically proactively managing and making decisions that will lead you towards that life you've described in your context. And while it's relatively easy for individuals to start to do this, where we really need it urgently is at policy level, because now imagine that we had every government ministry aligning their policy decisions with a national holistic context, where with every decision they're considering the social or cultural well-being of their citizens, they're considering the financial well-being of their citizens, and they're tying that to the ecological biodiversity and health of their country. If we had that, we would literally change everything. Because right now, your ministries, you've got Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Social Welfare, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Agriculture, all these ministries just making policies, developing policies with meeting short-term objectives in the context of that ministry with no collective focus or big picture clarity, and we're causing just endless knock-on consequences of these reductionist policies. Whereas, because right now, if Ministry of Agriculture makes a decision, they're not considering the long-term social or economic or ecological aspects of that policy or consequences. They're just thinking, we need to produce as much food as quickly as possible, but at what expense long term? And then the Minister of Finance is going to be dealing with the financial collapse of that. The Minister of Social Welfare is going to be dealing with the social breakdown that's causing. And they'll keep making decisions isolated from each other when everything is connected. So if we suddenly had ministries developing policies towards a collective holistic context to always guide them, and then in holistic management there's 7 filtering context checking questions, and I'll just tell you 2 of them. The first one is, if I make this decision, if I choose this action, am I addressing the root cause of the problem that I'm trying to solve? And then we go through biological, social, financial context checking questions to make sure that that decision will be sound or policy. And the last one, which is also one of my favorite, the 7th check is, how do I feel about this decision? It's your gut feeling. If you know, and you know when it's right or wrong, especially wrong, but a lot of people will just go ahead. So that's what a holistic context does, and it literally change completely, even though it's simple and not huge, we don't do it naturally, but it completely changes our focus from being zoomed in on symptoms and reducing our decisions to reacting or adapting. It just takes us and gives us a completely different perspective. So from now on, you don't look at your decisions from the perspective of the problem or need or desire. You look at them from the perspective of your holistic context, and that changes everything. It really does.